This video will hopefully show you how to look for census data, download it, and then do a little bit of manipulation on the spreadsheets that result so that you can make it a little bit useful for yourself. There are a couple ways you can go. You can click directly in the search engine for what it is that you want to look at. So I can type in here ethnicity and race, and it will spawn different types of tables of data that I might want to look at. But oftentimes what you'll find is that you're not able to find exactly what you want to look at. And so you might want to click instead on advanced search in order to do this. I'm going to start by actually filtering the geography that I want to look at. I want to look at the county level data for Alaska, which is actually the boroughs, of course. So I'm going to click on geography and then click on county and then click on Alaska. And there will be an option here to use all the counties within Alaska. So I have now filtered for that, and you can see the filter appearing here on the left-hand side. Next, I want to select the topics. So I'm going to click on topics down here and then open up race and ethnicity because I want to look at the Filipino populations around Alaska. I'm going to click on Asian and then on detailed Asian alone. And then I'm going to click on Filipino alone. Then I can go to the lower right-hand corner and click on search. And that will give me a bunch of different tables from which to select. They appear to mostly be American Community Survey. And so I'm going to click on the total population because I don't want it broken down by age and sex right now. Once I've done that, it should appear, and you can see that it has. It shows the Filipino population for the Aleutians East, the Aleutians West, but I can't see any more than that. So in order to see that a little bit better, I can click on transpose here, and it will allow me to scroll down and see that indeed I do have all of the boroughs that probably report that particular number. There are probably a lot of boroughs and non-borough entities that don't have sufficient population for this number to appear. So now that I have the data, I want to download it. And you'll find that downloading it can sometimes be a little bit problematic depending on what data it is that you're downloading. In the case of this ethnic data, when you download the full file, it will either be shown in a way that's a little difficult to use, or it won't actually show the data. And let me show you what I mean by that. I'm first going to download this data as an Excel or CSV file. So I download it as a CSV and it appears down here, and I can open that up. And when I open it up, you'll see that the data are all here. It gives the estimate of the population for each of these. But it is the columns and rows are not particularly good for what I want to look at. And so I'm actually going to keep that data because I want to use it. Because if I download it the way I want it to be formatted as a zip file, I'm going to download it as a zip file right now. And when you click it as a zip, download a zip file, sometimes I find you have to click that twice. So just keep that in mind. You might have to push that button twice. When I open this data up right here, here's the data, and it's going to be formatted the way that I want to look at it. But it doesn't actually give the ethnic data. It just gives the total population. And so this is a little bit problematic, but alas, that's what we have, and it's not that hard to fix it. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to save the file, and I'm going to use as sort of the parent file, the one that has it all properly formatted here. And so let me save those data, and I'm going to save it on my desktop, and I'm just going to keep it as a CSV and call it Filipino. That's saved now, so I can make modifications to it as I want to. The first thing I'm going to do is just get rid of some of the stuff that I don't want here. I want to keep the geographic ID for each of the units. I want to keep the name. I'd like to keep the total population number as well, but I don't need the rest of the stuff. I'm going to keep the race and ethnicity one there, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. So I'm going to delete these columns, and then I'm going to delete this column as well. And then I'm going to highlight all 4 of the columns and go up to Format right here and click on that and go down to Format Cells. Oh, not Format Cells, excuse me. I want to do Auto Fit Column. Auto Fit Column Width. There we go. So now I can see everything better. So now what I'm going to do is keep that GeoID. So I'm going to delete that, and that'll shift that up. I'm going to delete the name right here, but keep the geographic area name. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to modify this from saying estimate total to just saying total population. And then I'm going to delete that POP group, and it says race ethnic group. And I'm actually going to change that to Filipino. And now what I'm going to have to do, I'm afraid to say, is I'm going to have to go and copy and paste each of these numbers from here to there. And sometimes you have to do that if that's the data that you actually want. So I'm going to click on that 930, copy it, go to the other spreadsheet, and then I am going to paste it, 930. And I'm going to do that for each of these places. Okay, I've completed the cutting and pasting now. And what you'll actually see is that for a lot of the boroughs, no data is reported. And that may be because the number is so low that it reaches a certain threshold where they don't publish it for privacy purposes. So that's likely the case, but I at least have the data that I want to for each of these units now. And I can go ahead and save all of these, again, as a CSV file. I can also add formulas to this as well. Let's say that I want to know what the percentage is in each one. I can click on that first one, Aleutians East, and I can hit the equals sign, and then I can do a little math. I can take the number of Filipino, and I can divide it by the total number, and I can go back here and I can say enter, and it gives me a number. I can then format that cell a little bit by going to Format Cell, and then clicking to make it a percentage with just 1 decimal point here. I've done that now, and it shows me it's 28% in the Aleutians East borough. And I can drag that formula by going to the cell highlighted and going to the lower right-hand corner and dragging this down so that it covers each of the boroughs that are here. And you'll see it gives a null value where there are 0. And so if I wanted to use those data later on, I'd probably have to clear that formula out of there so that it wouldn't make a mess on whatever map or chart that I was trying to make. But that's pretty easy to do, and hopefully this has been somewhat straightforward and helped you to see how to download the data and then make a little bit of sense of it, manipulate it, etc. If you have any questions about this, then you should feel free to ask those questions or ask me to make another little video to clarify something or something like that. This video will show the procedure for downloading the UN data and then manipulating this spreadsheet so that it is able to be usable. This one is a little bit more on the editing side, and the download itself is relatively easy. We go from the data.un.org page, and we just essentially select whatever data it is that we want to look at. And I'm going to look at the most obvious one, and that is going to be the population growth, fertility, life expectancy, and mortality. And I'll click on CSV, and it will download that file for me. I can then open that file up. And once I've opened that file up, I'll bring it onto my screen right here. You'll see it's collected a lot of information here. There are literally thousands of rows of information and a few columns, some of which I don't need. So the first thing that I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this one column that takes up a lot of space on the screen and just completely delete that. And then, as I did with the last one, I'm going to make sure that the columns have been reformatted to fit the column width, just so I can see what I'm working with. I can get rid of this footnote information as well. And so what you're going to see is that it sorted it by totals, it sorted it by region, by country, by areas, all this information. And there's a lot of stuff that we can get rid of right away. For example, we can get rid of all the totals because we only need data that's for the countries themselves. And then we can go beyond the totals as well to delete all the information that shows the continents, like Africa or Northern Africa, or any of these other places that are essentially regional as opposed to individual countries. And you're just going to highlight that. It's going to take you a while to scroll all the way down through that information. But eventually you'll get to the end of it and you can delete that information. Okay, I've deleted all of those rows now, and you'll know because you will get to where it says Afghanistan, and that is going to be your indication. So you've got region and country codes here. You also have the names of the countries. You have the year, the series, the value, etc. You can actually sort on all these things if you want to, but you can also delete that very top row and just call this countries right here. It doesn't matter that much. It will allow you to sort the other way too. But we'll do this just so it's a little bit neater. And then the next thing you want to do is click on this little tab in the upper left-hand corner right here, and then go to Sort and Filter. Once you've clicked on Sort and Filter, you can create filters by clicking right here. So now I can filter every single one of these columns. And what we can do is we can sort them so that we can get rid of year data that we don't want, and also the series data that we don't want as well. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to click on the year data, and I'm just going to sort it from the smallest to the largest. And you'll see it puts 2010 up here, and then down at the very bottom will be the most recent data. So again, I'm just going to highlight all the stuff I don't want, and then I'm going to delete those rows. So I'll do that now. Okay, I'm done. Took me a little bit to scroll through over 4,000 rows and delete those, but I've done it, and you'll see that all that's left now is 2002 data. But I currently have 22 data that includes a couple of different series. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort by the series. And as before, I'm just going to sort the series by clicking on the filter over here and sorting it from A to Z. And now it's going to list the different series, and I can choose what I want to. I'm going to make this easy on myself and just do the infant mortality, which is right at the top. And I'm going to click on the Afghanistan and everything below and scroll all the way down. And delete all of the data, just as I did before. Except this time I think I'll keep it running here. You'll see how long it takes me to do it. So what I'll have at the end will just be the countries of the world, 2022 data, and then just the infant mortality. Well, I guess this is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would, but again, you get the idea. I'm scrolling, and highlighting all of these rows, and then when I'm all done, which I am finally right here, I click on it and then just hit delete up here. And now I have a neat little data set that shows the region and country with these numbers attached, the country names, the year, and also the series of data, as well as, of course, the all-important number here. And of course, you could have more than one number if you wanted to, but I have just included that original data and that the original one that I wanted to have. So there are a couple of things you can do here just to make this a little bit more usable. You'll see that the countries is pretty wide. That's because there's probably a country here with a very long name. So I'm just going to reduce that a little bit. We don't have to keep the year one because we know it's 2022, and we could save the data with that number, 2022, at the end. So I'm going to get rid of that. Infant mortality right here. If we wanted to, we could change the name of this entire thing. But I'm just going to, again, make the column a little bit smaller so that I can see things a little bit better. We could also just delete it and then call the whole spreadsheet infant mortality 2022. That would work as well. And in fact, let's just do that to make it easy. So now I've got these region and country areas, the countries, and the value themselves. And I'm going to get rid of these other columns that I have right here that are filtered just to clean things up. And so let me go ahead and save this. And remember, you want to save it as a CSV file. And so I've maintained that CSV, and I'm just going to call it infant mortality 2022. And now I am nearly done with this, but not completely done with it. So this has been saved. Now let's take a look at another file that I have, and that is the file where I have it someplace that shows the country codes. And this is as a CSV file as well. So here I just brought it up, and again, the names are a little squished here, but we want to get those codes attached to the names of the countries, because those codes can be really useful if we ever decide we want to map these data. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go on those rows and highlight both of them and say copy, and then I can get rid of this and I can paste them over here. Paste those right here, and it puts the name and the code there. And then what you need to do is you just need to match these up. You need to make sure that the Afghanistan matches with Afghanistan and Bangladesh matches with Bangladesh, etc., all the way through. And there aren't that many rows. This isn't that hard to do. If you have something that you don't need, like I've got the islands right here, I can just highlight those and I can hit delete, and it's going to shift them up. So now Albania is where it is. And everything's good now until we get to Antigua and Barbuda. I'm going to get rid of Antarctica so that that moves up. And now those are the same. And you'll have to do this all the way down. You might have to add a row or two. I can't remember for each of the types of data, but every now and then there's some things that don't match up. And you might want to change the names as well to make them a little bit easy. Like Bolivia is called the plurinational state of Bolivia. You might want to just get rid of that and call it Bolivia. That might be a lot easier. When you have done that, you are then free to save it like this, but you can also get rid of one of those name columns. You can also move the code columns if you wanted to, and have the code replace the region, country, area number over here. So that would be pretty easy to do. You just come over here, and I would actually copy it, and then I would put it over here, and I would paste it over here. And so now the codes are over there instead. And you could go ahead and get rid of this column. Again, that would be done after you had completed all of the process. But I think I've shown you essentially how to get this job done using the UN data now. If you have questions or need a further video, please let me know.